Welcome back, everyone, one and all, to Sports Talk on Elm Street. It's the week before the Super Bowl, the week of the Super Bowl, and we have got a lot to talk about on that front. Your host, Joe Elms, and Quinn. Quinn, hello? Are you awake? Okay, good. I was confused for a second there.
I've always been so awake.
Okay.
And not depressed about the Detroit Lions.
No, none of that, right? I mean, it's been like a week, right?
Yeah, I've had plenty of time to recover.
Plenty of time to recover, yeah.
I actually wasn't really affected by the loss at all.
No, yeah.
I've never felt better.
Yeah. But, listen, that being said, we're both back here.
We are back.
Joe Elms, Quinn Richards, who is... probably has a lot of emotions going through his head right now.
So many.
Coming off the Detroit loss. And
I mean, the last time we were on air, I was going on a huge rant about how the Lions were going to win. Fast forward, the Lions are up 17 points.
And then fast forward comes crashing
Fast
down.
forward, and I'm on the floor of your living room,
close to tears.
Curl up in a ball.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it was a roller coaster of emotions for Quinn, and
it really was.
It really was. Yeah. But I guess we can do a little. Do you want to talk about it for like maybe a second? Yeah,
we can talk about like a little recap on both championships if you want.
So let's recap. Let's get into it. We'll start. Well, I'll spare you having to talk about your Lions for a little bit. We'll start with the AFC Championship, the Chiefs and the Ravens, of course, in Baltimore. And the Chiefs coming out on top. It was just a very, in my opinion, especially for the Ravens, it was a very strange end to that game.
Yeah.
On the Ravens, they looked discombobulated, out of sorts. They looked like they were panicking, and they didn't look like, as much as I would have liked the Ravens to win, I love Lamar as a player and as a person, and I would have loved to see him advance to his first Super Bowl. He, as much as I really don't enjoy saying this, he reinforced all the playoff narratives about him on those last 2 or 3 drives of that game.
Yeah, there were some questionable decisions like throwing it into triple coverage. While the Ravens, by the way, were driving down the field and late in the game, and then like almost a must score drive, you could call it, and he throws it into triple coverage on, I think it was either first or second down, and it's just one of those plays where you're like, why?
You're just scratching your head. Why do you even remotely consider that as an option?
Yeah.
And keep in mind that 3rd and 1 that they had, something that sticks out to me, that 3rd and 1 that they had, why are you not, you have the best rushing offense in football and you elect to throw the football. I don't really know what was going through offensive coordinator Todd Monken's head there.
Yeah.
But listen, I think if Baltimore had just called a better game, if they had been more patient, they likely would have, changed the narrative. They more than likely would have won that game because the Chiefs played okay.
The craziest thing about the game, I was just going to say, is that, look, the Chiefs didn't score in the second half. If you would have told me going in that the Chiefs are going to have 0 points in the second half, I would have told you the Ravens won.
The Ravens win, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, the Ravens defense, obviously they gave up 17 points in the first half, which isn't ideal, but they held up strong in the second half. They did what they needed to do. It's just that the offense could not find anything, and obviously it didn't help out. You had a few different. You had the interception thrown. You were, I think, at like the 30-yard line. You had obviously the Zay Flowers. Practically a touchdown that turns into a touchback in the Chiefs' ball.
And that taunting penalty the play before, which
the taunting as well
was definitely impactful. And then, as you alluded to, that the often talked about rule.
I don't know what your take. I'm a fan of the rule.
I am too.
I'm a big fan of the rule.
I don't understand people who complain about it because it's like, why? There's no basis, I think, for their complaining, for their complaints.
I understand what they're trying to say. People are like, why should it matter? Oh, you fumble and it goes on one side of the pylon and it becomes a pylon and it becomes a touchback. You fumble on the other one, you get the ball at the 1 yard line. But look, I'm going to counter that and say this. Look, if you go down at the 1 yard line on 4th down, it's not a touchdown. If you go an inch further, it's 7 points or 6 points. But there's a reason the touchdown is this special zone. It's like this, almost like this holy area on the football field. You know what I mean? Where you have to get in there. And that's why you get punished for fumbling it into there and
That's
losing possession. So
certainly the first time I've heard an end zone called a holy area
Hey,
or anything close to that.
I feel like there are many NFL players that would agree with that statement because that's kind of how it is on the football field.
That's honestly fair. I bet, like you said, if you asked people who play the game for a living at the highest level, if that's accurate, then I think a good number of them would probably answer in the affirmative.
So I'm just gonna say, ending on this note, I hope that rule stays because I like it. I
mean, I don't see any problems with it.
And also, it's so rare. I know it happened in a big game, and so it's talked about. But look, it doesn't happen very often because people know to protect the ball. I mean, it adds an element of almost like a risk reward of reaching out for the touchdown versus keeping secure of the ball so you don't fumble. But
exactly, it's certainly risky, but then there's also that. I mean, there's the obvious reward at the end too. So it's got its share of opinions. It's got its fair share of varying opinions. That's safe to say.
It happened in this game, and it cost the Ravens basically 6 points.
It cost the Ravens 6 points, and I would argue it may have, because if they score, they go up by, or they.
When did the fumble happen? Was it?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'm not even recalling the exact timeline of the fumble. But either way, it's 6 points on the board, 7 points with the extra point.
And it goes a long, like when Lamar Jackson completed that long throw to Zay Flowers, I thought, and it got down to like 15 to the 20. I'm like, oh, okay, the Ravens are going to go put it in the end zone, and they're going to be down by 3 instead of 10.
That fumble happened in the second half. It was, I think, the third quarter. It was it was the third quarter, and it was the score was 17-7 at the time. So you would have been 14-17, kicking the ball back to the Chiefs, who were struggling at that point.
Yeah, and I would feel a lot better with my chances if I was only down by 3 as opposed to being down by 7, which the Ravens
10 down by 10.
Yeah, 10. Well, they go being down by you said it.
Yeah, it was just, I don't know. I think that the Ravens offense, I would argue, let them down. And it wasn't a horrible game.
Agree.
There were some fluke things that obviously happened. And they turned it, I would say they turned it up in that second half. They had a lot of punts, though.
Lots of punts.
And that just can't happen when you're playing in an AFC Championship game.
Yeah. I mean, you have to take advantage of your opportunities offensively. And the Ravens just straight up, they just didn't do it.
Didn't do that.
They just didn't do it. And the Kansas City Chiefs are in the Super Bowl because of it.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the reasons why.
Give credit to the Chiefs defense, though, because the Chiefs defense did a great job.
They were phenomenal, as they've been all season, and they're going to certainly be a stiff test for this dynamic 49ers offense. Speaking of that, kind of, let's move to a little NFC title game recap, and I know you're just really looking forward to this one.
Yeah.
So, of course, it starts out all Detroit. They jump out to a huge lead and then go into halftime with, still an equally big lead. I believe it was 24-7, 24-10?
24-7 at the half.
24-7.
17-point lead.
And the 49ers defense was just being carved up by the Lions running game, and the Niners offense was just, they were not performing at the level that they had been during the regular season up to that point. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to be honest, I thought Detroit was going to cruise. Like, oh, they're up 24-7 at halftime, this thing's over. However, the thing that we know in the NFL is there is no such thing as a sure thing.
Yep.
And that was proven as such in the second half, as it was. It was all Detroit in the first half. You've completely flipped that around. It was all San Francisco in the second half, and that propelled them to a 34-31 win in the end. And I think it really began to kind of become, I guess, from the perspective of Detroit, I think maybe possibly the biggest turning point was the big Brandon Ayuk catch that should have been intercepted.
Yeah.
But what do you think was kind of the turning point for Detroit that was like, that it was at the point where it's like, oh, this may not be as safe as we thought it would be?
I don't know. I was just going to say the entire second half.
There are several moments, aren't there?
Because look, what I said going into the game is that the Lions were going to need to play 2 good halves of football. And I said that like 3 times because I was like, this is so true. And it hadn't happened up to that point. The Lions played a poor second half against the Rams, and they played a poor first half against the Buccaneers. So they hadn't really put it together. And I knew against the 49ers, a team this good with this much talent, you need to play 2 good halves of football. And Detroit knew that. Detroit knew that as well. They had the first half. They did it. They did what they needed to do. They said their game plan was to get the ball, score early, put it on. And they're up 24-7 at halftime. It's where you want to be. But they came out of that second half and they just looked flat. As soon as the second half started, I would argue, they looked flat. And yeah, if there was a play in specific where I think the momentum started to shift, I would say it was that 4th down where the Lions went for it and Reynolds dropped it. Yeah. It was a catchable pass. It was a little bit behind, but it was a catchable pass.
You're able to, yeah.
And I think what happened is that really got the crowd back into the game. I think the crowd was taken out very early. I think when the Lions
it was what, like 24-10?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was 24-10. And the Lions had because they held them to a field goal coming out of the half. And look, the Lions had taken the crowd out of the game early on in that. I would say after that first quarter, Lions are up 14-0. The crowd was basically silenced. But you get stopped on that 4th down, then it's a little bit of momentum. The crowd gets back into it. And then I have listed here, and this is where it all goes downhill, right? You have the drop by Reynolds on 4th and short that turns into points. Then you have the interception that goes off of
Vildor's helmet.
It hits off of his hand first, then off of his helmet.
I mean,
then it turns into
how do you not come down with that?
And then it turns into a 53-yard catch to Brandon Ayuk. And like, yes, good play by Brandon Ayuk, but it was not a good throw. And
it was not a good throw. It was, to be honest, I think it was overthrown, and Vildor should have picked it off.
And then,
he should have picked it off.
That's such a deflating play. And then you're like, okay, well, how are the Lions going to react to that? The Lions get the ball back, fumble on the first play of the drive, loses it, and then they give the ball to the 49ers at like the 25-yard line.
Which is like basically, I think, automatic for that offense.
49ers go and score, and then this next possession, the Lions need to get something going, right? You get a 3rd and 10 situation, and you have like a 25-yard catch to Reynolds, and he drops it again because he tries to run before he catches the ball. At that point, it's just, that's when you knew as a Lions fan, it's like, okay, well, we've seen this before as Lions fans. It's just the momentum. There's no momentum this half. The Lions offense was looking flat. And it was basically just all downhill. I mean, event after event. And it wasn't even like the 49ers, like, give the 49ers credit, they capitalized on their opportunities, but you're not going to tell me that Ayuk catch was a good play from the 49ers.
No, it was luck.
Or that offense was necessarily driving on the Lions defense because they were getting the ball at the 25-yard line. You know what I mean? With good field position.
I mean, that's kind of like I said, I just feel like that's automatic for that offense. Here's my question. I know all those plays just like were not added up to be a recipe for disaster for Detroit. My question is, I want to ask you this. I want your thoughts. Why did they completely abandon the running game in the second half? Because I mean, they were that rushing attack was destroying San Francisco, and I feel like if they had kept at it, they would have had a much better shot to win. Perhaps even with all these fluke plays, maybe some of them wouldn't have even happened.
Yeah.
And I just feel like if they had maybe kept with a running game, they would have had a much better chance to win the game. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I think I would agree. I know there were some plays early in that second half where the run game was getting stopped a little bit more. I think the 49ers definitely did a pretty good job during halftime
of adjusting, yeah.
But the Lions gave up on it very quickly, right? So like you had that 4th down, it gets to 4th down, you pass, it's incomplete, turnover on downs. I think at that point, the Lions, and this is a theme that has kind of happened in the past with the Lions, and I know it's not the same having Ben Johnson versus coordinators in the past, but the Lions have always had a tendency to almost try to overcorrect, right? So the Lions lost a little momentum. Okay, we got to get that back right now. Let's pass. Let's get 15-yard passes, which, look, the reason those passes were completed in the first half is because the run game was opening it up, you know? Mm-hmm. So just abandoning it so early is I would argue, a poor decision from the Lions. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, it did bite you, right, with the fumble and stuff. But it's like you almost can't let that deter you. And one of the easiest ways to gain back momentum is a long drive, and that happens with the run game. And to get that energy out of the crowd is slow, long drives.
Slow, long, takes a lot of time off the clock.
Not 3 and out with 3 incomplete passes.
No, that's not ideal for to kind of suck the life out of the crowd, you know, and that's what they need to do, and they just couldn't get it done. But I mean, hey, listen, it definitely could be worse. I mean, big news for Detroit, keeping Ben Johnson is a massive step in the right direction to repeating the success that they had this year. And I think that most of that team should be staying in place, I believe.
The whole team. I know Josh Reynolds is out of contract. Jonah Jackson, the left guard, will be out of contract.
CJ Gardner-Johnson is upcoming. I think he's an unrestricted free agent. Yeah. So I don't really know. He seems to like Detroit and the culture. He seems to like Detroit.
I also think that he is a guy that knows his value was probably more than, I don't know how much he was getting paid. I think was it a 1 year, $8 million?
Something like that. Although we have to remember the whole thing that happened this past offseason during his departure from Philadelphia.
Yeah.
That whole
I think CJ
conundrum
is valued more than that contract. The question is whether or not they can come to an agreement, because the Lions have the money to spend, but Detroit might say to themselves that, look, we think we can get a better guy coming out of free agency, coming out of the draft, because the Lions have the 5th most cap room in the NFL. Mm-hmm. They have money to spend. It's just that they might not. It's up to them whether or not that CJ is where they want that money to go.
Going to be some very interesting offseasons for both the Lions and the Ravens. However, let's talk about the winners of these two games, who are going to meet in Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium. The NFC champion, the San Francisco 49ers, and the AFC champion, again, the Kansas City Chiefs. And I don't know about you, Quinn, but I think it's going to be, honestly, it's going to be one heck of a Super Bowl. Two of the best teams in the league for most of the year. I mean, the 49ers have done what the 49ers have done. We've kind of alluded to that. They were 12-5, the top seed in the NFC. They had such a good year last year, but they were kind of seen as just like second best behind the Eagles. This year, it's been a completely different story. They are the top dogs in the NFC, and they've made their way here. Have they had some luck go their way? Yeah, absolutely. Most notably in the game against Detroit and in the game against the Packers. But they're here. They're the top seed in the NFC, and they are representing the conference in the big game. And on the other side, in the AFC, the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, we know that name pretty well. The defending Super Bowl champions beats the Eagles last year in Super Bowl 57, and now they had a bit of a sluggish, I think I would put it is a good word to describe it, regular season. They were kind of sluggish.
I would say sluggish.
Just kind of a little slow. But in the playoffs, they have really hit their stride. Mm-hmm. I think they've hit their stride big time over the past few weeks, and they showed it in the game against Miami in the wild card, the game against Buffalo, and then offensively, they were just kind of okay against Baltimore, but they did what they needed to do to win the game.
The defense came through, yeah. And look, a little bit of that is that you're going to be less aggressive on offense when you have the lead, but at the same time, you still expect to score points.
Exactly. That's a good way.
Yeah.
And not to mention, they have the best player on the planet in Patrick Mahomes. So you're always going to have a chance when you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes under center. So, all right, Quinn. So here's my first question for you. Your initial thoughts as soon as you see this matchup, you're like, okay, what am I thinking about this matchup?
The first thought comes to my mind is Super Bowl 54, because if I'm being honest, that was one of my favorite Super Bowls I've watched.
That was a very entertaining Super Bowl.
I'm trying to think back to that year. I don't remember time, because this was 2020, early 2020, and a lot happened since then.
You remember what happened right after that,
like a month after that Super Bowl, obviously with COVID, but. I don't think it was Super Bowl that was like super hyped up back then. And obviously it's Super Bowl. It's always going to get publicity. But I loved that game. It was a great game. The 49ers were obviously like ahead for most of the game. Not necessarily most of the game, but they were ahead in late. And then the
Patrick Mahomes turned into Patrick Mahomes. And the
Chiefs
they were up, got it going.
They were up by 9 going into the fourth. And then the Chiefs put up 21 straight.
That's an insane number.
Crazy. Yeah, and so that was just a great Super Bowl. I thought it was really awesome. I think this is going to be a good game. I think it's going to be competitive. I'm hoping it's going to be competitive. No one likes a blowout Super Bowl. I'm thinking back to the Broncos versus Seahawks. Don't remember which year that was.
Super Bowl 48, I believe it was, 2013.
The one that started with it was like a fumbled snap for a safety.
Went over Peyton Manning's head.
That was,
and then I think that was probably the first sign that it was like, this is going to be a long night for Denver fans.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm excited for the matchup. I think there's a lot of talent on both rosters. I think the matchup that stands out most to me is going to be how this 49ers defensive line is able to deal with Patrick Mahomes in this Chiefs offensive line, which has really, I think, heated up throughout this season.
They've been great. They've been great this year.
I think that on terms of the offensive and defensive lines, that Trent Williams is the best player on either line. But I also think that the Chiefs have a better offensive line overall than the 49ers do.
I think I agree with that. I think it's pretty close, but I think I agree with that.
And I think on the other side of the ball, the Chiefs obviously have a very talented defensive line, but it just doesn't stack up to the talent on this
the pure
49ers
talent on the San Francisco D line is just it's insane.
I've heard stuff about Chase Young coming off the bench, like not playing first downs, only in there on obvious passing downs, which I don't know if you've seen like the stuff of the like lack of energy, like taking plays off, basically.
There was one play, I don't remember what it was. It was during the NFC Championship.
I think it was a run, maybe, and he just
went for a touchdown, I think, and then he just kind of stood there and didn't do anything.
Yeah,
and then he was getting flamed for it, understandably so.
Yeah, and I think I don't know if that's going to really matter much because Chase Young is a pass rushing guy.
He's going to make his impact. I feel like whenever he's on the field, he's going to make an impact.
Yeah, so
in some way. Was it going to be on every play? Maybe not, as maybe evidenced by that and the fact that he's going to be intentionally game planned for by the Kansas City offense. But anyway, you were saying.
I was just going to say that I'm interested in that matchup because I want to see if the 49ers defensive line is able to make Patrick Mahomes uncomfortable, which is not something we see often.
Yeah,
right.
No,
he does a great job dealing with the blitz. He's got a good offensive line in front of him. But if the 49ers are able to make him uncomfortable, that pans out very well. It's going to get a
lot more interesting, the dynamic. I don't know. I'm of the belief that the 49ers will not be able to really get a whole lot of make him uncomfortable because he's Patrick Mahomes, and it seems like he's prepared for anything and everything when he's back there.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean. Like there is nothing that phases him anymore. It's just like, oh, cool, I've seen this before, and I know how to adjust to it.
Let me pose you a question here.
Yeah.
Another matchup I'm interested in is how these Chiefs receiving options are going to fare against a very talented 49ers secondary, and I would argue more importantly 49ers linebackers with Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw.
Yeah.
Do you think that the Chiefs are going to have, because look, this 49ers team does not blitz very often. They stay back in coverage, and that's honestly pretty good when you're going against Patrick Mahomes because if you blitz him, he's going to tear you up. So it's going to be relying on how well these guys can cover these Chiefs receivers, and then obviously Travis Kelce. How well do you think the 49ers are going to fare against Rashid Rice, MVS, and those guys?
This is probably the most, I think this may be the most interesting aspect of the game-wise, because the outside of Kelce and Rashid Rice, for the most part, I mean, Rice really started to turn it on about halfway through the year. Outside of those two, these Chiefs receivers have been so inconsistent, and that makes me, if I'm a Chiefs fan, I'm nervous about that because we know how good this 49er defense is, the second unit and the secondary. We know how good they are and how good they can be, and I think this is really tricky for me. If there's any coach I would trust to kind of like scheme these guys open and make sure they get their opportunities to make an impact, it would be Andy Reid.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he's one of, if not the greatest offensive mind of this, I would go as far as to say this generation.
Yeah.
And it will come down to the players, guys such as, I'll just name some names here, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Sky Moore, who is coming, who should...
Will he be playing?
I'm not actually sure.
Maybe.
He came off IR. He was hurt for most of the season. He came off IR, I believe sometime last week. Guys like Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Justin Watson, Sky Moore, even Jerick McKinnon, he's off IR.
Kadarius Toney will be playing.
I don't know what's going on with that dude.
I think he's playing. I don't know. Mecole Hardman.
I don't know. Mecole Hardman. I don't know how much run Tony is going to get, to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
Yeah, because he's coming off a weird thing where it was like someone said he was injured and he went on
And then he
Instagram
went, he's
Live
like,
and
no,
said,
I'm
I'm not injured.
They're lying or something. There's a lot going on
There's a lot
that
going on
we're
there.
kind of confused about.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, Tony has just not had a very good season.
No.
And I don't really know if he's going to get in much, if any,
Many reps, yeah.
reps in the Super Bowl. I mean, he certainly had he certainly made some massive plays in last year's Super Bowl, but that's last year, and this has been a much different story. But it's a very weird situation for Kadarius Toney.
Yeah. Let's talk about the other side of the ball. Let's
Yes.
talk about this 49ers offense against the Chiefs defense. And I think I want to start with a guy who has gotten a lot of hate, I would say, over the past few weeks.
Yeah.
Almost the whole season. Let's talk about Brock Purdy.
Yeah, Brock Purdy.
And look, Brock Purdy, he didn't have a great first half against Detroit. He was struggling. But in that second half, I would argue Brock Purdy was, even above Christian McCaffrey, the most impactful player on that 49ers offense, especially with his legs.
He bounced back in a big way
He had
after
a
that
lot of big
lackluster
runs.
first half. He had a lot of big runs, and he showed that he is a threat with his legs, not just in that game, but like I think during the season
Yeah.
overall.
Yeah.
He showed that he is more than capable of making plays with his legs and not just his arm. But, I mean, listen, the 49ers offense, I don't think they've ever... I'm not sure they've played a defense like the Chiefs yet. I mean, this Chiefs defense, of course, I mean, listen, the narrative with the Chiefs is that, it's their offense that's been, like, carrying them to victories. It's been like they've been winning high-flying shootouts, barn burners. That's not the case anymore.
Yeah.
This Chiefs defense has been just like, they're capable of getting to the passer. They're capable of just kind of sitting back in coverage and patrolling the middle of the field. And they're capable of playing guys deep, looking to create takeaways, ball hawking, being opportunistic. They're capable of doing everything. And I'm really not sure the 49ers have faced a defense quite like that yet.
Yeah.
So
I think a big factor here, look, the Lions' specialty was stopping the run, right? And it worked in the first half. McCaffrey was, I would argue, blanketed in that first half.
He was not playing particularly well, that's for sure.
And that's where the 49ers kind of found themselves in that deficit because they were in these obvious passing downs, and Detroit was able to do good enough in that first half to limit them. Look, the Chiefs don't have that rushing defense. The Chiefs are 17th in the NFL in rushing yards per game, while the 49ers have the third best rushing attack with the best rusher in football with Christian McCaffrey.
Who just had an absolutely ridiculous season.
Yeah.
And is going to be one of the top contenders for Offensive Player of the Year.
And because of that, I think that the 49ers will need to attack that, right? That's the weakness. I think this Chiefs secondary is quite talented with guys like Snead. Among many others. And so I just think the 49ers are going to need to attack that run game, get a run game started, and that will open up the passing lanes for Brock Purdy.
I agree with that. I think that it's going to be important for this Kansas City defense. In particular, I'm looking at Steve Spagnuolo and his... I mean, you saw the way he put that Ravens offense just like in a box, basically. And I think he's more than capable of doing that for this 49ers offense because, like, the Ravens, they were... I guess my point is this. If he did it for the Ravens offense, I don't see why he can't do it for this 49ers offense. I think it's going to be more difficult, a little bit more difficult, because the Niners have playmakers everywhere. They have Purdy, who can beat you with his arm and his legs. McCaffrey, who was one of the best offensive players in the game, no questions asked this season. Deebo Samuel doing what he does. Brandon Ayuk doing what he does. And George Kittle. He's George Kittle.
Yeah.
And not to mention, they've got guys like depth pieces who have stepped up. Juwan Jennings is a name that comes to mind. He's made several big plays over the course of the season. Ray McLeod. Guys of that nature who can make plays that will eventually lead to wins. I think it's going to be trickier for Steve Spagnuolo and this Chiefs defensive coaching staff to neutralize this high-powered 49ers offensive attack.
Yeah, and look, McCaffrey gets all the talk in the headlines, and rightfully so. But look, there's Kittle on this team. There's Ayuk. There's Deebo Samuel. All of these guys can make a difference, and they can make a difference quickly, right? And I mean, Deebo Samuel had a pretty solid second half against the Lions. And he's a guy that just seems to always find himself open on the field. So even if McCaffrey is having a rough day, which I don't see happening, I think he'll have a solid game at least, if not a great game. These other guys can hurt you. So I do think it's going to be an offensive-heavy game on both sides of the ball. I think last Super Bowl between these two teams, it was 31-20 was the final score. But yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of offense.
I mean, everything, all those things considered, all those factors, it should be a heck of a game, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Give me your prediction. Let's hear your predictions.
Yeah, let's end this little bit of our Super Bowl our exclusive Super Bowl preview with our predictions. So, all right, so let's think about this for just a second. So the 49ers have been, I think you would agree, I feel like, when you say they've been the best team in the NFC for the whole year.
The season.
That's reasonable,
yeah,
right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, there was that stretch, but it was due to injuries where the 49ers started losing games. I don't think that's fair.
And then at the time, the Eagles were, 8-1, something like that.
Yeah.
They were considered, but they have their own problems to deal with, as me, an Eagles fan, knows. Anyway, the 49ers have been largely the best team in the conference for the whole year, and it's not really a surprise that they're here. However, the Chiefs, on the other hand, they have been doubted. They're like, oh, their offense is sluggish. They're not going to do anything in the playoffs, and they just continue to prove the critics wrong again and again and again. And now we got these two teams, and from what I've been seeing, I feel like the feeling is on paper San Francisco should win this game relatively easily.
Yeah, ESPN
That's what you'd think, right?
ESPN Analytics gives a 60% chance to the 49ers.
And I think that's what most of the sports world thinks. However, I will summarize my prediction in one sentence. Are you ready?
Yes.
One team has Patrick Mahomes. The other one doesn't. Chiefs win. The Chiefs take home their second consecutive Super Bowl title by a score of, I'm going to say, 34-24.
Okay.
I'm going to say it has a somewhat similar ending to 54.
Yeah.
As in, the Chiefs, I think the Chiefs are down. They're going into the fourth. The Chiefs, they're not down by 9. They're only down by maybe 3.
You're thinking it's going to be a great game. A little comeback action.
Yeah, a little comeback action. They're down maybe 3 or 7. Not a whole lot. They're still in the game. But then the fourth quarter is when they really turn it on. Turn it on offensively, and then the defense, the 49ers kind of their offense, the 49ers offense kind of sputters out because of the efforts of the Kansas City defense. Chiefs win 34-24.
Okay. I'm going to go
on to you.
And I've thought about this, and I've thought about it a little bit here. I think that the 49ers will get out to a lead, as you said, like in 54. But I think the difference that I'm seeing in this game versus Super Bowl 54 is that this season, the 49ers have the best running back, arguably the best player in football in their backfield, right? And because of that, I think that's going to play a big part in the second half of this game because, look, it's hard to run the ball early on in a game, but as the game progresses, that defensive line entire defense, honestly, gets worn down. And I think the 49ers are going to capitalize on that. And I think they're going to pound the rock with Christian McCaffrey. And I think that's going to ultimately seal them the game. And I say the 49ers are going to take this 30-21.
Wow.
9-point game.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think maybe
it.
late game, they're up 6. They drive down the field and they kick a field goal to put them up 9, right? Because that's 2 possessions. Then the 49ers or Chiefs have to go basically
all the way down
all
the field,
out,
more or less.
They can't get it. So.
Yeah.
It's my prediction.
All right.
So we're picking different sides here.
It's going to be a heck of a game.
Yeah.
only 3 days away.
Yeah.
At 6:30 p.m. Eastern on
CBS.
CBS from Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. Niners Chiefs for all the marbles. Now, so we've talked about the Super Bowl.
Yes.
There is something else in the sports world today that happened today it's happening. It just concluded about a couple hours ago. The deadline.
Yes.
Something I think that's worth maybe spending the last 20 minutes or so, maybe talking about a little bit. That is the NBA trade deadline.
Yes.
Is today, and there was a pretty good amount of activity, I think. And here's what I think we're going to wrap up this episode, the last 20 minutes or so. Let's go for all the notable deals. We'll go. I have the 2024 NBA trade deadline live, courtesy of ESPN. Thank you,
We
ESPN.
love that.
You were very cool for that. And we'll go through some of these deals, and let's give them some grades. What do you say?
I'm so down.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. All right, so the first notable deal that I'm seeing here happened at 10:24 a.m. Eastern Time. The Philadelphia 76ers are acquiring guard Buddy Hield from the Indiana Pacers for Marcus Morris, Furkan Korkmaz, and 3 second-round picks, according to ESPN senior NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski. All right, so Quinn, I'll go to you first. What do you give this deal? What are your thoughts on this? What is each team getting?
Marcus Morris, Furkan. The 76ers are getting a guy who can shoot with the best of them from beyond the arc. Buddy Hield, renowned sharpshooter, I would argue. I loved watching Buddy Hield at Oklahoma.
He was amazing at OU.
He was so fun to watch. I think this is a good deal for the Sixers, right? You pair someone with, obviously, Embiid's the what everyone's playing through. Is he out? How long is he out? I thought he was
out for a while. It's going to be Tyrese Maxey who's going to be the offensive focal point.
The offensive focal point
for the foreseeable future.
Until Embiid comes back,
returns.
which I'm assuming he'll be back before the playoffs.
He should. It's going to be close, but I think he should.
But look, I think what Buddy Hield has shown, and I think he started his career out, with the Kings?
Yeah.
Since he's been with Indiana, he really has become a guy who you can trust offensively to play a big part and can go off at any given moment, right? He's a microwave. He's a microwave kind of guy where he can just heat up and he can heat up and he can heat up and really shift the momentum for you. So I think for the Sixers to get Buddy Hield for later in the season, I mean, he'll be helpful right now. I think no one has concerns with the Sixers.
He'll be another offensive source, which was, I think, really badly needed in the wake of the Embiid injury.
And when you have a guy like Embiid who's going to draw all that attention from the post, having a guy who is, you can't ask for a much more reliable person from beyond the arc than Buddy Hield. So having a guy who you can trust after Embiid draws a double to kick out and just drain the three, great move from the Sixers. I'd say I'll give him a B+, A-. I mean, I think they gave up a good amount, but look, Marcus Morris, Furkan Korkmaz, and 2 second-round picks. This is multiple second-round picks. I don't know if that really does much for the Sixers at this point in time. So Buddy Hield does. Those things don't. No. Therefore, it's a good trade for the Sixers.
I agree with that. I mean, Marcus Morris and Korkmaz, they were good rotation pieces. They are not on the level of Buddy Hield.
Yeah.
And Hield is going to be, like we both said, another offensive source, which the Sixers really, really needed in the wake of Joel Embiid's injury. And it's going to be really helpful. It's good for them. I give them an A- for this trade. Is that a little bit high? I mean, maybe. I mean, Buddy Hield has been. I think he's
averaging 12 points a game right now.
I think for the most part, Buddy Hield is consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are games where he'll shoot like 1 for 9 or something.
They happen.
I mean, it happens. That's what basketball is. I think for the most part, Buddy Hield is consistent, and I'll give the Sixers an A-. For the Pacers, I mean, I'm not super moved. It's like kind of whatever. I'll give the Pacers like a C+.
I was going to say
it's kind of like meh.
C range.
It's kind of like meh.
Let's move on.
Losing Buddy Hield will hurt. Hurts. It's not like I'm sure they didn't enjoy that.
He's he's a valuable asset to the team. I think Morris and Korkmaz will be fine. They'll be solid, but like it doesn't necessarily replace Heald, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. So let's move on to the next big deal. This is an interesting one. Not really a huge name, but I think one worth noting. A very solid rotation player. The Toronto Raptors have acquired center Kelly Olynyk and guard Ochai Agbaji from the Utah Jazz. Sources told Adrian Wojnarowski in exchange for Otto Porter Jr., Kira Lewis, and a 2024 first-round pick.
Yeah.
So both of these teams are like in kind of weird spots. The Jazz are like, they're like in and out of the play-in discussion, kind of. And then the Raptors, I'm not really sure if the Raptors are going anywhere this season.
Raptors are still 4 games back from the last play-in spot. This is a weird move to me because if you're the Raptors, why are you getting a guy like Kelly Olynyk, who's
like,
a veteran?
What do you gain? Exactly.
I mean, I guess you gain some veteran scoring, but you're trading away young players. You're giving away young players for a guy who's going to be out of the league in the next like 4 years, probably.
Yeah.
How old is Kelly Olynyk right now? He's not that.
I think he's on the wrong side of 30.
Yeah. Okay. So. The wrong side of 30.
I mean, that's what I.
No, I like that.
Have you ever heard
But
that
look,
before?
I mean, obviously, Kelly Olynyk's not a bad player.
No, I think he's quite a good player.
I think back to, I think it was, I don't know, I think it was this year. I think it was last year. Kelly Olynyk dropped like 35 on the Pistons.
I know. He'll just come out of nowhere and have some ridiculous 25, 30-point games.
And he can put up some good points. He's a solid offensive player.
He can play a little bit of defense. I think, too.
He can play some defense. He'll get you some boards. He's, I think, grown into the modern NBA of being able to stretch the floor. He's a pretty solid 3-point shooter from that 5 position.
And I think to add on, I think Ochai Agbaji I think he holds a lot of promise.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think he could potentially be a solid player. I really liked what I saw from him at Kansas. He had such a great career there, and he had some moments in Utah. But I'm excited, especially in this a very young, seemingly rebuilding around Scotty Barnes Raptors team. I think he's going to have a bigger role, and I'm looking forward to seeing what that turns into.
Yeah. What are you looking at for grades here?
The Raptors. I mean, I like the Agbaji thing. I'm confused by the Olynyk part.
Yeah.
I'll give this I think Agbaji helps us out. I'll give this a B-.
I was gonna go C+
for Toronto. Toronto. For the Jazz, this isn't too bad. Kira Lewis I think he's all right. He's got potential. Getting a first-round pick is always nice. And then Otto Porter, I don't really know because I don't think he's going to be in the league for much longer.
30 years old, 10th year in the NBA.
I'll give the Jazz I'll give them a B. How about that? I'll give them a B. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'd give the Jazz like a D+ on this.
Yeah, fair.
I'm not. I don't understand. Like Kelly Olynyk's like all right, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you're giving away. It's basically just who do you trust more? I guess the Jazz didn't like what they were seeing from Ochai, so they're going for Kira Lewis. I mean, that's
something
the trade-off.
Also notable. I think one of the reasons they may have moved Ochai is the way Keontae George has been playing.
Okay, no, I can see that, and that makes sense. But I still. I
mean, he may be like, honestly, this is going to sound really weird. He may be their best point guard. That's kind of crazy, honestly. Possibly. That's kind of insane. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. Not much to talk about this deal.
Yeah, let's go to the next one. This is interesting because I was not really expecting this. The Oklahoma City Thunder finalizing a deal. They've finished it as of now, obviously, to acquire Charlotte Hornets wing Gordon Hayward for guard Trey Mann and forward Davis Bertans, former Dallas Maverick Davis Bertans, according to Wojnarowski. Quinn, what do you think about this? Because I didn't really have Gordon Hayward getting traded on my bingo card.
No, I didn't either. I like the move, though. Obviously, Gordon Hayward's not going to be doing anything on the Hornets.
No.
The Hornets have 10 wins right now. They're, looking horrible.
The only reason they're not last is...
the Wizards and the Pistons, both, both of them. Okay, the Wizards are bad too.
Anyway,
yeah, I love the move for the Thunder.
Yeah.
What else did they give away again?
They gave
Davis Bertans,
Trey Mann, and Davis Bertans, who I think their playing time had decreased. Honestly,
and Vasily I don't know how to say it.
Mijik?
Yeah, whatever.
We're not gonna get that right.
Yeah, we're not gonna get it right. Yeah, it's great for the Thunder. Look, the Thunder are in a position that a lot of people didn't think they were gonna be at this point, which is, I guess this is crazy. It's a 4-way tie right now.
Yeah, for
three-way, four-way tie
West.
for the top seed in the West, which is great. They're a young team. But to get someone like Gordon Hayward, it doesn't hurt that. Obviously, he's going to be a solid player.
Veteran presence in that locker room filled with young guys, by the way.
He would be filling in, I would imagine, as a starter, right?
I would guess probably
a starter.
He's a really good scorer.
Yeah, a guy. He's averaging 14.5 points per game right now, almost 5 rebounds, almost. That's the typo in the article I'm reading. In 5 assists, it says. For the perspective, it says Hayward, who averages 14.5 points, 4.7 rebounds, and 4.6 points.
Okay.
Not sure what that makes.
That makes total sense, right?
But
total sense.
It's helpful for the Thunder. They're in a position where if they're getting deep into a playoff run, and I think this is another thing to talk about, they don't have a ton of playoff experience, but a guy like Gordon Hayward, who has played for some good Celtics teams, knows what it's like to play in the playoffs. And hey, get him off a bad team. Gordon Hayward's probably happy.
I give the Thunder. I think I agree with everything you just said. I give the Thunder an A for this deal.
I'm saying an A as well.
Yeah, because I mean this is a great pickup for the Hornets. I mean,
you got out without giving away a pick, right?
That's great.
That's fantastic.
Hey, that's great. Any way you slice it. I think for Charlotte, I mean, I don't know. I don't think this is obviously giving away Hayward is like. It's not ideal, but you knew he wasn't going to fit your timeline. And getting back some promising guys and Trey Mann, and I don't really know how old Davis Bertans is at this point.
I'll check right now.
Is he still like relatively young?
He's 31, but it's only his 7th year in the NBA.
I mean, I don't really know what Bertans' role is going to be in Charlotte. I like Trey Mann. I think he has a chance to be solid. I'll give the Hornets like a C-.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Doesn't really do anything for me. I like Trey Mann though.
I would be surprised. I was gonna say if Trey Mann goes out there and starts averaging quite a few points.
Yeah, like gets his scoring up.
Yeah,
I like him. I think he'll be a good player.
Yeah. So I think it's not a great trade for the Hornets, but it's not horrible.
Great, but it's not horrible.
I give him a C+.
Yeah,
while the Thunder have an A. But like I understand when you only have 10 wins that it looks good to do something. That's another thing is a lot of these front offices like the Pistons who have made quite a few moves here and the Hornets. It's like it's almost a publicity thing, right? Like you need to trade or else your people are gonna. It's like a trade deadline, nothing happened, and we're sitting here with 7 wins if you're the Pistons or whatever.
Yeah.
It looks good on paper to just start making moves, and sometimes it's needed. So
exactly.
Don't hate the move.
Oh yeah. So we'll get to the Pistons in a second.
Yes, we will.
There is a big deal regarding them. But before we get there, we'll go to my team, the Dallas Mavericks. Completed a deal to land center Daniel Gafford from the Washington Wizards in exchange for center Rashawn Holmes and draft compensation, according to Woj. Quinn, I'll go to you first. What are your thoughts on this deal for the Mavs and the Wizards?
For the Mavs, it's great, right? You get guys that can actually fill in your rotation, other than that are not named Seth Curry and Grant Williams, who didn't really have a huge role in that team.
I mean, Grant started off fine. I was like, as the Mavs fan here, Grant started off fine, and then he started to like be really not good.
Yeah,
and then it was like he got worse and worse every game. Like I'm maybe exaggerating a little bit, but I'm not exaggerating by much. It's he was actively getting worse. And it's like he wasn't giving us much of anything. He wasn't giving the Mavs much of anything at that point, and it was like something needed to happen.
Yes. And then I don't love giving away a first-round pick, but look, I mean, based off of the Mavs, hopefully they're hoping that the first-round pick's not going to be that valuable anyways. Yeah. And then you're getting back 2 second-round picks, which...
That's fine.
You're getting it from the Hornets, so those might actually be some solid picks.
Maybe.
But yeah, I think it's a big help for the Mavs. I'll send it over to you. Obviously, you have a little bit more stake in this.
The Mavs, I'm the Mavs fan here.
Mavs fan, as we have right there. Wait, put a wide shot.
Here.
There it is.
Yeah, there's the here. Let me just for you know what they're not gonna anything just for this segment for the Mavs.
He's got his Mavs hat on for the listeners.
I mean, I really like this deal. a player like Gafford is exactly what the Mavs needed. And, I mean, they got him. They didn't give away, I don't think, very much. Rashawn Holmes was, like, not playing at all. Like, literally not playing at all. And Gafford is going to – I thought he might have a chance to start because Lively is a rookie. I don't really know if they want to go with the vet over the rookie or the rookie over the vet. I don't really know, but whatever happens, he's going to have a spot in this rotation right away, and he's going to make an instant impact. I think when he is set to debut, whenever that will be, probably not tonight against the Knicks, but whenever the next game is my guess.
Yeah.
But this is great. I give the Mavs. I mean, that draft compensation, giving that away is not great, but. They wanted. I know that they've wanted Gafford for a while.
Hey, and PJ Washington, by the way.
And PJ Washington. We'll get to PJ Washington in a second. They wanted Gafford for a while and they got him. So I'll give the Mavs. I'll give the Mavs an A. I'll give the Mavs an A for this deal. The Wizards. I mean, Holmes is like, I don't know. What I saw from Holmes, he was good. He just was getting no playing time. And
wait, first of all, I misspoke earlier. I said that they're getting in the picks from the Hornets. I meant the Wizards.
Oh, it's fine.
Okay, it's fine.
It's fine.
Continue.
The Wizards. Anyway, from what I saw from Holmes was good. He just wasn't getting any playing time. He took over. There was one game I watched when I was actually back in Dallas for, I think it was Christmas break. I don't remember. They're playing against the Lakers, and he came in and I think Lively was out or something. He had gotten hurt, and Holmes came in and gave the team some good minutes.
Yeah.
Got some rebounds, scored some points. He played very, very physical. I still think he's a good player. I really do. I like him. But, I mean, I think Gafford's just better. Gafford's just better. I think he's better than practically any center the Mavs have on the roster, maybe except for Derek Lively.
Yeah.
He may be better than Derek. I don't know. They may be maybe on the same level, give or take. But I don't know. To wrap up this one, I'll give the Mavs an A. I'll give the Wizards a C+.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I'm gonna take that as well.
Put that back.
All right, move on to this PJ Washington deal.
Yes,
that's what I was so thinking of PJ Washington that whole time.
Now we're on the Hornets part.
Which this is where the picks are involved, right?
Yeah.
The other one's just a straight up swap between Rashawn Holmes and Gafford, right? This one is the trade between PJ Washington from the Hornets and 2 second-round draft picks for Grant Williams, Seth Curry, and a 2027 draft pick, first-round draft pick. This one I actually love because PJ Washington has been very good.
Very good player.
He's averaging, I think, 14 on the season.
Yeah, something.
I'll take a look at it. 13.6 points per game. He's only a fourth-year player, so he's still relatively young. He's only 25 years old. I think he still has room to grow, and even look, he just had a 43-point game like 2 weeks ago.
It's
so
nuts.
For the Mavs to pick up a guy like PJ Washington, who PJ would likely be coming off the bench, I would assume. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think I think their lineup would probably be something along the lines of. Well, actually, I'm not even sure because it may be something like Doncic, Irving, Josh Green, especially with the way Josh Green's been playing recently, Washington, and Derek Lively.
Okay.
Assuming the team is fully healthy, right?
Yeah.
And I think it would probably be Derek Jones Jr. coming off the bench.
Yeah.
So that's what I think the lineup would look like. ESPN is listing his position as a point guard, which is obviously not true. But anyway, that's what I imagine the starting lineup would look like. But I mean, I agree with you. This is great for the Mavericks, and they needed a player like Washington who can. I think he can do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, he can. He averages 5 rebounds a game as well, on top of 2 assists. So he's a guy that he can do more than just score.
He can do more than score.
And he's
play
a solid
defense,
defender. Yeah,
get rebounds, and he can make. He's one of those guys who just makes an impact on both ends of the floor in a lot of different ways. He's like a better Grant Williams.
Yeah, I think Grant Williams. Think of it as an upgrade, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, I don't know. I liked Grant while he was here. He's a great guy. And while he was with the Mavs, he's a great guy. And he gave us some solid moments, but all too often, he was just not great. Just not really not a good player. I think fundamentally, he his 3-point shot was like it wasn't really ever there. Especially recently, it was just like never there. And then he was just it was just, and then his defense was beginning to fall off a little bit. It was not a great situation, and the Mavericks did well by getting an upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give the Mavs an A for this one, and if the Hornets, Grant Williams is probably going to he's essentially to be Washington's replacement, more or less. And Seth Curry should have a bigger role, especially after the Hornets just got rid of Terry Rozier.
Yeah, I think it's actually pretty solid for the Hornets. Also, you're getting a first-round pick. So
I'll give the Hornets a B.
I give B+ for the Hornets and an A- for the Mavs.
Yeah. So the Mavs were definitely busy on deadline day. Now we'll get to the Pistons. The Pistons completing a big trade with the Knicks.
This is like the last real big deal, I guess.
This is the last. Yeah, we can.
We'll wrap it up.
We'll wrap it up with this one. This is the last really, really big deal of the day. The New York Knicks completed a larger deal with the Detroit Pistons, landing Bojan Bogdanovic and Alec Burks for Quentin Grimes, Malachi Flynn, Evan Fournier, Ryan Arcidiacono. Did I say that right?
Arcidiacono.
Oh, I was so close.
You were close.
And 2 future second-round picks. 2 of those guys, were literally not even playing for the Knicks, by the way.
Arcidiacono was not.
And Fournier was not really
Fournier, either. He wasn't.
He kind of fell out of the rotation. Anyway, so the Knicks getting Bogdanovic and Burks, and then the Pistons getting Grimes. I like the Grimes pickup. I still think he's a good player. Flynn is okay. Fournier and Diacono.
No.
Nah.
Nah.
Sorry, guys. Listen. I mean,
I don't know.
I'm not sure Fournier and Arcidiacono are even going to be in the rotation. To be quite honest,
I would say Fournier might play a little bit. I would say Fournier more likely. I think Arcidiacono would probably not touch the court. Look, as a Pistons fan, this is a rough season, and I don't think anyone can look at the season and be like, that's not a rough season. It's a rough season.
It's a rough year. Not good.
But look, I know I mentioned earlier that like sometimes teams are just like, hey, we want to trade for the sake of trading. But look, what good does having Bogdanovic on the team do you right now?
I mean, he's a veteran. He's like, I think, 32, 33, something in that range.
Yeah.
He's on the, as I said earlier, he's on the wrong side of 30.
Wrong side of 30.
He's averaging 20.2
points per game. He's been fantastic. That's what I'm saying.
Is that a typo?
No, that is not.
That is insane.
I don't know if you've watched a Pistons game, but
I
probably
watched
haven't.
that one against the Celtics where I found out I got whatever their local broadcast is for some reason. I was like, what? I can watch the Celtics game? They're playing the Pistons and they lost the Pistons lost in overtime.
As a Pistons fan has experienced this year, basically the only 2 reliable options on offense this season who have been reliable all season have been Bogdanovic and Kate. And that's been the case for the last, honestly, 2 years. 2-3 years. I guess Bogdanovic was on the team 3 years ago. But anyways, whatever. He's been fantastic. He's averaging 20.2 points per game. I would say he might be the best scorer that has been dealt in the trade deadline. And I think that those stats will go down because he's no longer going to be the only person on the offense who can score at times. But look, he's a great player, but he doesn't do any good for the Pistons to have him laying around, right?
No.
I don't remember the deal. I think the deal was his contract was like
they got him from Utah, I believe.
They got him from Utah. I don't know how long the contract was, but I know that it was not going to be forever. And he's 34 right now.
Yeah.
So look, he doesn't do you any good as a Pistons organization. He's just going to be there scoring points, but nothing for the future. The team needs to get new pieces in. So to get Quentin Grimes, I think that's the main headline of the trade, I would argue, is Quentin Grimes. It's solid. It's fine. You made a move, and a move should have been made. Look, I think that the Pistons kind of didn't win the deal. I would argue the Pistons lost the deal.
I don't think they won.
But at the same time, it's a deal that you kind of have to make because, look, Bogdanovich needs to get off
I
the
don't
team.
think it's a bad deal. I like Quentin Grimes, the prospect of him being.
I think you could have gotten something better. I just don't think there are many teams out there willing to trade for a 34-year-old Bogdanovich.
Yeah.
Even though he will help you out and he will help you in a run to the playoffs. And in the playoffs, a lot of teams are not going to be willing to give up their young pieces for Bogdanovich. So to get Quentin Grimes is solid.
I also think the Knicks were very desperate for depth.
Yeah.
Is another factor. So I think this is why the Knicks were like, hey, take this. We want Bogdanovich and
Alex Burks,
who has been. I think he's kind of had an up and down season.
Pistons fans have mixed opinions because sometimes he'll go in and absolutely ruin the game, and other times he'll have like a 26-point performance where he's the only player with a positive plus minus on the court.
Yup.
So it's very up and down. But yeah, I'm fine with the move from the Pistons. You trade in 2 vets and you get some young players and some other vets, I guess, to replace them.
I guess I would say for my final input, I would give the Knicks. I'll give the Knicks a B+. Good depth. Good acquiring depth. Bogdanovich and Burks will. They make the team a lot deeper. They're on a contender. And then for the Pistons, I mean, I'll give them a. I'm flipping between 2.
I'm giving him a C+.
I'll go with you. I'll give him a C+ because it's fine. It's not great. It's not horrible. It kind of is what it is, at this point, because it's not really going to change how Detroit is going to end the season. I know that kind of sucks as a Pistons fan that you are, but
I just am waiting for the lottery when the Pistons end up with the 6th pick or something.
Yeah.
And even if the Pistons win the lottery, this is one of the
maybe they'll win it and they can take Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, win it. Honestly though, there's no headliners, right? This is one of those few drafts. It doesn't happen very
don't
often.
even know. Like we're not going to talk about this. We're not going to talk about this for like a while till maybe like April or May.
Yeah.
Like when the season's over. I literally have no idea who is even going to go first overall. Like I have no clue.
one knows right now. There's hasn't been really a standout guy.
Yeah.
So
it's very strange. It's a very strange draft season. But anyway, that is going to do it for this episode of Sports Talk on Elm Street. This one will be up on Spotify and YouTube.
Yeah, the ones will be going up there
very soon. More content will be churned out to YouTube soon as well. But for now, that'll do it for this show, and we will see you again. We'll be recording again after the Super Bowl.
We'll be talking about it for sure.
We'll be talking about how that one went, and some of these guys that were dealt at the NBA trade deadline will have likely made their debuts with their new teams.
And we might be shifting because we've done a lot of NFL, obviously with the playoffs. So we might be talking a little bit more about, I would say, college basketball, NBA a lot. Mm-hmm. Hey, maybe we even. I know we talked about this. Maybe get some NHL in there.
NHL, and
it happens.
To keep this in mind, MLB spring training is right around the corner.
The Tigers are making some moves.
Maybe. The Rangers are defending World Series champions. The Tigers are.
Didn't have to one up me, bro.
Listen.
You didn't have to one up me, bro.
Listen.
I was like, yeah, the Tigers got Mark Kahanen. And you're like, yeah, we won the World Series.
The Tigers are on their way up. The Rangers are where the Rangers are. They did what they did last year, but there's a lot of happenings in the sports world.
Sports world
always
are. Hey, F1's going crazy right now as well.
Yeah, F1, man. But that'll do for this episode, and we will see you again soon.